Warning: the following video contains spoilers up to chapter 1136 of One Piece manga. Though there are minor spoilers, if you wish to not be spoiled on small talking points, I recommend watching this video, which you can find in the description. In this video, I go over Loki and the Holy Knights in the Elbaph arc, with a game of Marvel Rivals in the back. If you wish to see more of this content, please be sure to let me know. Alright, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm feeling pretty pissed off right now because I just recorded this entire thing and then my computer crashed and the file's gone, including all my notes I had to. I love it. Anyway, it's not your problem, it's my problem. I believe that I figured out Loki and parts of Elbaph. Parts that haven't been revealed to us yet, but they'll probably be revealed soon. This video is recorded prior to the full summary of chapter 1136. That is a big chapter. This is a long story, but I have read the brief spoilers for 1136 for chapter 1136. I haven't read the summary, so I don't know everything that happens, but I know some stuff that happens, and that some stuff will be used. I don't think Loki is the character that we were initially led to believe. Starting off in chapter 1130, we see Loki, and he calls himself the Sun God who brings about the end of the world. And after this chapter was released, the whole community, and including myself, everybody, labeled Loki as the villain, which is justified, of course. I mean, if somebody came up to you and said, "I'm going to destroy the world," and actually meant it and was in prison and chained up, I would probably assume that they're a villain, or at least have something wrong with them, perhaps. I even saw people spreading the hashtag ZKL, Zoro kills Loki. Although at the time this was a good hypothesis, no longer do I believe that he will be labeled as the villain. I could even see him helping Luffy. So in chapter 1134, we see our first glimpse, or the first sign of Loki being not the character we were initially led to believe by Oda. We see him showing the smallest bit of humanity, or like a little goodness or a little kindness in his heart, even though he denies it, of course. I mean, if the character believes that they're evil or supposed to be evil, I mean, they're not going to want to show any kindness, obviously. But this is intentional by the author because it is done, it is seen by a character who we don't know, but we know that this character is close with Loki. They're like friends. So this character knows Loki and sees the kindness in him. This is an intentional hint by Oda, by the author. And if you don't believe that's intentional, then I challenge you to open up your eyes. I'm going to introduce 1136 now. In the spoilers that I read, it is clear that the population of Elbaph believes the Sun God is a god of destruction, or a god of liberation, or maybe both. We know from the beginning of Elbaph that Loki ate a legendary devil fruit, a quote legendary devil fruit, which we have no name for, by the way. Hashtag where's the name? Hashtag probably because it's gonna give away the rest of the story. We'll get into it. Is it so crazy, right here, this is where we get into it. Is it so crazy to say that there would be another sun god fruit? So the population of Elbaph believes that there's a sun god of destruction, or a sun god of liberation, or both. So if there's two, and we already have one of those, who's to say that there isn't another one? You know what I mean? This legendary devil fruit. Is it crazy to say there'd be another sun god fruit? I saw this on Twitter somewhere. In an original sketch for Gear 5 Nika, Oda drew a good version and an evil version. What if there are two sun god fruits, one of evil and one of liberation? It would explain some of Loki's philosophy. If Loki grew up his entire life believing that the sun god is going to bring about the end of the world, and then later he becomes that same said god, would he have an obligation to bring about the end of the world? Let's put it in our own shoes. Let's say this. Let's say you are like 15, right? Let's just say maybe you are 15, and you find out in the future that you are going to destroy the world. It's kind of like some Flash action here. And you find out that you are eventually going to destroy that world. You're eventually going to destroy the world. So you know in the future that you are supposed to destroy the world. It is your future to destroy the world. Are you going to actively work towards trying to destroy the world? No, right? That's what I would say, no. If Loki believes that he is destined or obligated to destroy the world because he is that supposed destroyer of the world, the sun god, if that's who he believes the sun god is. If he grew up his whole life believing that's what the sun god was, the destroyer of the world, and then he becomes that sun god, would he have the obligation to bring about the end of the world? No, right? Would that make him evil? I would say probably. I mean, this brings up the question of his morality. I do honestly believe Zoro and Luffy will change his mind, or that there's gonna be something about those three. I don't believe that Loki's gonna like actually come in and start like messing things up. The first time I recorded this, I put it much better. I don't really know how to explain it the way I did the first time. I wish I could watch the recording, honestly, but I said, like, if you put yourself in that position, you find out that you're supposed to destroy the world, like that's your destiny, you're not gonna let that happen, right? Unless you do, and then you're just Loki, apparently. This would only make Loki an evil character. If he actually goes about the destruction of said world, maybe Luffy will figure out he's the sun god and bring him about with liberation, the ultimate save character, but it's unlikely. I mean, Luffy and Zoro are on their way to Loki now, and there's going to be something there, like I already said, but I don't believe they would release Loki if they felt he was like a genuine threat. If they were genuinely threatened by Loki, I don't believe they would release him. And it almost feels like yin and yang, like you have to balance the good and you have to balance the evil, like some Naruto stuff here. Like it's you gotta balance the darkness, you gotta balance the liberation and the destruction, you gotta balance them. While he liberates the world, Loki will destroy the world. I mean, maybe there's something there. I feel like that would be a play out of Kishimoto's playbook, but if Loki has the other fruit, maybe he has a good heart, but feels obligated to be that evil character, to be that god, and build up his hatred, which we see again in 1136 when the Holy Knights kill his wolf. He uses it to build up hate to destroy the world, which maybe, again, is his obligation. Perhaps. Maybe that's what he feels is his obligation. Would he have to become that necessary evil, yin and yang? We see him have to build up hatred and store hatred within him to bring about the destruction of the world. We see that in 1136. And when he was talking to his friend, we see he doesn't want to be seen as kind because that's not who he was made to be by the fruit. That's not who he's destined to be. Maybe that's who he was. Remember when we saw the silhouette with him smiling? Maybe that's who he was. He was kind, but he doesn't want to be seen as kind anymore. I mean, his friend knows him best, right? Because that's like his only friend. Nobody really knows him. And why are they even friends? Why are they even friends? Is it because Loki was framed? I'm going to get into that later in a second. But maybe he believes that it's not his role to be that kind person. Speaking of the fruit, let me get into how I believe he got it and the role of the Holy Knights, and maybe how Loki was actually framed. This was written, I wrote this originally before 1135, but I've updated it to 1136, so there might be small little things that are off, but theory starts off on the fact that Loki is a fake bad guy. I've come to this conclusion by basing this theory around that Loki was framed for the murder of King Harold and is not responsible for the king's death. Now, I didn't always feel this way as he was introduced. I thought for sure Loki was not a good guy, as well as a lot of other people, and the original explanation of the murder made sense. I mean, I don't really necessarily believe this theory, I just believe that it's a possible explanation as behind what happened. Maybe he wants himself to be seen as evil, like I've already said. He wants himself to be seen as that evil and not as that kind person, when he deep down has a kind heart, which we kind of already know, almost. For the sake of this theory, let's just assume that King Harold was working alongside the world government. For whatever reason, if it was to bring about Elbaph as a king nation, which isn't so crazy to say anymore, as we've seen Elbaph turn from a warrior nation into a woke nation, and who was it because of? King Harold. Let's just say that they were working together. King Harold possessed a legendary devil fruit, which is stated to be like the sun god fruit, or at least that's what the population of Elbaph was led to believe. The world government is known to betray people that they work with once they are done using them. For example, the 7 warlords. After the 7 warlords weren't useful to the government anymore and were able to be replaced, the government ordered them to be arrested and therefore betrayed their agreement. Is it so crazy to say that the government went ahead and betrayed King Harold II in order to get a power that is rumored to be like the sun god fruit? Vegapunk tells us that they have been at war for over 800 years and that is still going. Now, assuming that the world government wants to betray Harold and steal his fruit, who better to do it than an undercover force in which the world knows nothing about, who can teleport wherever they see fit, the Holy Knights? It sounds pretty reasonable, right? Especially when one of them literally looks like Shanks. I mean, the Emperor, right? The person that everyone in Elbaph loves. This was strategic by Emu. He sent Shanks lookalike, we'll call him Banks for the sake of this, to Elbaph to assassinate King Harold for the fruit. While Loki was there with his dad and witnessed the whole thing, Instead, Loki got the fruit while over the dead body of Harold, and Banks teleports out. So Banks teleports in to go after Harold to take his fruit. Finally, the world government wins, but instead Loki's there, and he stops it, acting as a liberator, steals the fruit, eats the fruit, and then realizes he has to become the necessary evil. He was the kind person. He eats this fruit in order to save the world, to later destroy the world. Odd, perhaps. So Loki gets this fruit over the dead body of Harold, and Banks teleports out. Loki has no idea that there are two Shanks, and when he pleads for innocence and blames Shanks for the murder, obviously everyone's going to think he's crazy, blame him for the murder, throw him in jail. That's when he takes up the evil character, becomes the villain that we saw in 1130 when Loki was introduced. Luffy is also talking to him and making deals with him. I would argue Luffy's superpower is able to see the hearts of people. Will Luffy really make a deal with a genuinely evil character? Probably not. I have this written here from 1134. It says, also Loki might say he's going to destroy the world, but maybe that's because it said the sun god is going to do that. This literally just got confirmed that some people believe the sun god is a god of destruction who's going to destroy the world, so there's that. Loki also has a special bounty on his head, so it makes sense the world government is hiding something in regards to him. This next part of my theory is going to be about the Holy Knights. I believe that the Holy Knights are an undercover force of the world government, almost equal to the Five Elders. I equate them to the Five Elders because of the teleporting magic that we saw. But the Five Elders are public figures. They're the public's view of the highest authority of the government. Wouldn't it make sense for there to be an undercover force just as strong with similar powers reigning under Emu in the shadows? I mean, every time we see one of them, they have a cloak and a hoodie over their face. I'm also going to add that the Holy Knights are the secret rulers and kings of Elbaph. I have no strong evidence for this, but it seems that the government has been controlling Elbaph for some time now, like I stated earlier, because they changed the whole nation from a warrior to a woke nation. Who's the only, person that benefits, actually? It benefits the world governments because they don't have to deal with the giants anymore. So they've already been kind of controlling them from the shadows. So why would they stop now that Harold is dead? That's why they assassinated him. It would make more sense for them to completely take it over and now rule it with complete supremacy. As we see Banks roll in through a magic circle in secret, I will add it didn't look like much of a secret. I mean, that lightning looked pretty obnoxious. Like I said though, I don't have too much evidence on this since we've just seen the Holy Knights arrive. But I think that they will end up having some foothold in the government of Elbaph and controlling that nation. I mean, Emu literally rules the world from the shadows. Wouldn't it make sense that an undercover force of Emu would be also ruling something from the shadows? Let's think about it here. And also, this all could be disproven by chapter 1136. So take it with a grain of salt because the Holy Knights are recruiting Loki right now. I mean, I don't know how that's going to go because I haven't seen the chapter. But imagine all the Holy Knights have a 2 billion bounty. A special bounty are stronger or as strong as Loki. They're gonna cook up, bro. But let me know what you think, gang. Make sure to subscribe because that shows me what videos I should release and what videos I shouldn't release.